When we talk about the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Muslim in his Jami' al-Musnad al-Sahih Aidan, and Bukhari and Muslim muttafaqun alayh, no doubt to its authenticity. Hadith 3466 in al-Bukhari and 3470 in Bukhari and 2766 in Sahih Muslim, if I'm not mistaken. Hadith is about a man from Bani Israel, and from the nations before us. And this man had murdered 99 people. Now I'm sure you guys have all heard the hadith, and it's something we hear a lot, but I want you to think about this hadith. I don't want you to just kind of go over it. I want you to really think about it. You know, from the kaba'ir, from the major sins, and from the most serious of them is murder. No doubt it's something that is unimaginable to most people. And growing up in rough neighborhoods and rough times and rough places, we knew a lot of people that had unfortunately committed such crimes. And it changes a person. You know, when you take in the life of another, it changes a person. And many people that I grew up with, once they had kind of gone down that path, they felt like they had no hope. That now there were some kind of monsters that had morphed into this other being, and there was no way back. And many of them would say things like this: "It's too late for me. I'm done. I'm cooked. I'm this. I'm that." But imagine somebody who doesn't just kill once, or twice, or 3 times, or 10 times, but 99 people. That is murderous. That is some serial killer stuff. Right? And imagine how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala views such a slave. Meaning, who gave that person life? Who gave them life? Allah. Don't fall asleep, man. It's not trying to catch up on your slaving. Allah. Who gave him rizq? Allah. Who gave him shelter? Who gave him water? Who gave him oxygen to breathe? Who cured him when he was sick? Everything is from Allah. And this person, not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, 99 times, disobeyed one of the greatest orders of Allah, not to take a human life. Now I can tell you that if it was me, right, let's say, Allah protect us all, right, but let's say somebody killed somebody from my family, let's just put it that way, right? One time, I'm not forgiving him. Like, I'll be real about it. Like, I'm not going to be fake. Oh no, I just say it's okay, I'm forgiving. Nah, man, you killed somebody, well, I'm coming after you. I'm honest, right? Real. Twice? Oh, I'm gunning for you, right? 3 times? Oh, I quit my job, man. I'll be looking for you all day long, right? 4, 5, 6? Oh man, I'd be, there'd be nothing on my mind except to take that revenge. So this man, in such a state, went to a monk, rahib, somebody who would be like a zahid, somebody who would worship Allah, somebody who was not a person of knowledge, but a person who worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a lot. And he asked this man, said, "I've killed 99 people. Can I ever be forgiven?" Now, the abid, the one who worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not necessarily a person of knowledge, not an alim, but an abid who's good. They look at things through the lens of ibadah. A zahid looks at things through the lens of zuhud. So a person who's dedicated to staying away from sins and worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he heard a man had committed one of the most serious, deadly sins, murdered 99 times, all he thought about is how serious such a sin would be, and it is serious. So he told him, "No, you cannot be forgiven. 99 murders? Are you crazy?" So the man killed him and made it 100. Then he went to a person of knowledge. And a person of knowledge evaluates things with evidences, with the Qur'an, with the hadith in our time, in that time, whatever divine revelation was there, looking at the wahy. This person of knowledge, he goes to him, he tells him, I have killed 100 people. Now imagine 100 murders, 100 mothers crying over their children, 100 plus children orphaned, 100 spouses crying over their spouse, something very serious. And he says, can I ever be forgiven? So the alim, the person of knowledge, tells him yes. Why? Because he had the evidences. He knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives all sins. Until the time of death comes, even shirk you can make tawbah from. Let alone murder and riba and all these other major sins. So he told him, yes, but you cannot just continue on your path. You cannot be like, okay, I ask Allah forgiveness and go back with the same people doing the same thing, No, change your environment. Leave. Go to this other place. That is a place of the people who are pious, people that are good, to put yourself in a good environment so that you can change yourself. So this man, he made the intention. Now he's murdered 100 people. Now he's on his way to the place of the righteous to change his life. But he dies on the way. He's about halfway. Now the malaika, as you know, at the time of death, if somebody lives a good life, the malaika of rahmah, of mercy, they come to you. And if somebody lives a bad life, then the malaika of adab, of punishment, come to you. So both groups come now. One lays claim and the other lays claim. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells them, okay, measure where is he closer to? To the people of sin? To the environment of murder and haram? Or to the people of piety and the environment of righteousness and the obedience of Allah? And even though he was right in the middle, as some of the other narrations they mention, that he was actually closer to the people of sin, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so merciful. His mercy is so vast that He shrunk the earth just for this one disobedient slave to forgive him, and made him closer to the people of righteousness, so he was forgiven. Now, that's mercy. I mean, not just mercy on the pious, not just mercy on the scholars, but even on a disobedient slave of Allah who had done such crimes. When he turned to Allah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shrunk the earth with His mercy for him. Imagine us, whatever we may be dealing with, whatever sins we may be combating, whatever struggles we may be dealing with, we need to always turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because His mercy is so infinite. His mercy is so vast that Ar-Rahman is such a name that we cannot give that to any of the makhluk. Rahim, you could be Rahim, you could be especially Mubalagha, yani extremely merciful. But Rahman is such a name, such an amount of mercy that is only for Allah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even has mercy upon the fusaq and fujjar and kuffar. In this dunya, Allah feeds them. In this dunya, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sustains them, answers their dua, protects them from things, gives them cure. Even when they're denying Allah, even when they're lying against Allah, even when they're fighting the deen of Allah, Allah is Halim. He gives them this time out of His mercy to make tawbah, to turn back to Allah. Imagine, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam, two of the prophets, to who? To Fir'aun. Fir'aun, Taghiya, Zalim, Kafir. Am I going to get shut down? But even then, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells Musa alayhi salam, idhab ila Fir'aun, innahu tagha. I mean, even to Fir'aun, that is the mercy of Allah. And those people that deprive ourselves from turning to Allah, from making tawbah, from making dua to Allah in the nights for forgiveness. Wallahi, we are the ones that make dhulm on ourselves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not oppress anybody. He is the most merciful. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every time we read the Qur'an, except for Surah Tawbah, what do we begin with? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Not just one sigha ar-Rahman, but ar-Rahim with it as well, as Allah is specifically merciful to the believers on the Day of Judgment. And that is the beautiful, even if you look at one of my favorite chapters in the Quran, Surah Ar-Rahman, what does Allah begin with? Ar-Rahman. Allama al-Quran.